So I think one thing and one skill that is definitely important for many people, but not necessarily everyone, is reading. Now, I know there have been some really prolific and prominent individuals who say, oh, there's no need to read, reading is a waste of time, or I didn't need to read in order to be successful. And I'm not necessarily saying that reading will make you successful, but knowledge is important. Knowledge is important when utilized in the right way. For some people, knowledge is required in order for them to move forward, and for others, it's not enough. So you need to define what makes sense for you. There's no right or wrong way. For me, in the industry that I'm in, I know that reading is going to be important. I know life experience is very important. And so putting the two together where I can fuse knowledge and fuse my experience together to create something magical and unique is important. And so whether you're in a similar industry to myself, whether you're trying to master a new skill, whether you're in the beginning stages of trying to be an expert, whether you just want to be curious, reading is fundamental. Now, I started my journey reading probably back in 2011 when I was challenged by, a manager at the time who rated me as an individual, but was surprised to know that I didn't like reading. I was that individual who felt like they knew what they needed to know and I could discover it how I needed to discover it. And so, not to say that's not the case now, but I knew I was missing out. No, when I think about it now, I knew I was missing out, but back then I didn't know. So my first book that I encountered into was The Alchemist by Paulo Coelho. And that was influenced by listening to Will Smith's Words of Wisdom back on YouTube. Really popular YouTube motivational video. My mind was exploding. Like, it just changed because it was the first time where I read something that either confirmed my thoughts that I didn't have labels or names for, but also gave me new things to dive into. And I was hooked. I started getting into a space of really diving deep into psychology, business, spirituality, science, sociology, little things here and there, in order for me to have this framework, an idea of what I believe as an individual. But also to quote things as well, to have evidence base behind what I'm saying. Now, of course, that would be trusting the readers in terms of their research and stuff. But nonetheless, at least I had the opportunity to think about, what do I believe? What don't I believe? Can I investigate this furthermore? And so that was useful for me. And so what I'm saying to you is, if you're not really much of a reader, I would say try it out. You don't have to read these days. Depending on your style, maybe you just want snippets of information. This is where you can get, those, I think it's Bookist and 15 Seconds. These different apps that condense books in a way where you can get the snippets of the information. Maybe you're more of an audio person, and so you want to listen to these different books. So you can download things like Audible and really check out the different books that you can listen to. Maybe you actually need physical books to read, okay? And so you just have to buy books or go to the library and start reading, okay? Maybe sometimes you're more of a watcher, and so maybe you don't necessarily want to read the books, but you want to find out what that author is saying or what that author is about. And sometimes they offer, videos in relation to what they've taught. Or you can check YouTube and see their, bespoke talks or TED Talks on that specific topic. It doesn't really matter. You're acclimatizing this knowledge. Now, of course, you have to go out there and do stuff in order for you to be a practitioner or master or a high performer in your field. But reading is great. It really is, especially when you apply that knowledge. I've been able to apply this knowledge. I've been able to have the confidence to talk about different stuff because I've been well read. And it's funny, like, my motivation to keep on reading in some stage stemmed from this idea of being lonely. There were times where I didn't have people to talk to, or people misunderstood me because I wasn't able to reach out because I was going through a very difficult and dire time, and they'll never know that unless they watch this video. But I turned to books. And I was hungry. I was ferocious. And I would typically read about 2 books a month. So roughly about 24 books a year. Now, I haven't always maintained this consistency because it gets to a point where I'm not saying I'm not a student. I'm always going to be a student of the game, but you need to start taking action. But if you're not in that space, it's about getting that knowledge in some way, shape or form. The other thing I'd say is I've seen these different things where you have people within the author community or Stoic community, or personal development industry, and they've spoken about how they keep copious notes. It's funny because I never knew this was a thing, but I have been doing this from the longest time that I can remember. I've always, in my Google Drive, as an example, typed out different notes pertaining to different things that stand out to me in books. In fact, before Google Drive was about, I was doing it in notes in my phone, okay, just typing it all out. And then what I did, had this fantastic idea to transfer all of those notes into Google Docs and have different sort of like Google Docs relating to those different books. Because in my mind, I was like, I can use this one for teaching, but also extrapolating information and pulling it into books and articles and stuff. But two, I want something that I can hand down to other generations as well, that they can consume. Okay, this is the way I was thinking. And then Notion came along and I thought, wow, let me just organize everything in a way where I can easily just pick the information that I need to. So I'm going through that process right now. And so for me now, reading, or should I say reading, has been a slow process because I've been writing notes and making sure I really absorb and understand the information. Because that's just how my brain works. Now, some people may be like, that's such a waste of time. You could have your opinions. I don't really care. This is what has worked for me. And so you should do what works for you. And so if reading is something that you're more interested in, I've actually got a list of different books that I've read from different sort of areas. You can check that out, or just really check out Amazon or whatever you may need to check out to start to explore different things that you find interesting as an individual or you want to learn more about. Now, of course, reading's not just about learning. It's also about exploring new ideas and diving into new spaces if you're more of a fiction person as well. Anyway, if you like videos like this, don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell. And as always, my friends, understand, reach, and expand. Peace.